what Padre Pio saw. When marriage began to fall apart. Have you ever wondered what happens inside a marriage the moment it starts to break? Not the visible fights or the cold silence at dinner, but what happens in the invisible world where grace moves and demons wait? And could a man who spent 50 years bleeding from his hands actually see the exact moment when a couple stops fighting for each other and starts fighting against God? Throughout the 20th century in San Giovanni Rotondo, a small village tucked into the mountains of southern Italy, a Capuchin friar with pierced hands spent 12 to 15 hours every single day in a wooden confessional box barely wider than his shoulders. His name was Padre Pio. Between 1918 and 1968, he heard more marriage confessions than perhaps any priest in modern history. Thousands of couples, tens of thousands of secrets. And unlike every other confessor on earth, Padre Pio could see what they could not. He read souls the way you read a newspaper. He saw the sins they forgot to mention. He saw the lies they told themselves. And according to documented testimony from Dr. Schuba, one of his closest spiritual sons, Padre Pio saw something else. He saw the exact moment when the sacrament of marriage began to die. Let me be clear about what we are dealing with here. Padre Pio was not a marriage counselor. He did not hand out advice from psychology books. He was a priest who carried the wounds of Christ on his body from September 20th, 1918 until his death on September 23rd, 1968. 50 years of bleeding. 50 years of physical proof that he stood closer to the supernatural world than the natural one. And when couples came to his confessional, many times he did not need them to speak. He already knew. If you value real documented Catholic history like this, subscribe. It is the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you are hearing this from, and let me say this up front. This script is researched and factual, using direct sources from Father Stefano Manelli's authoritative biography, Padre Pio of Pietrelcina, published by the Franciscans of the Immaculate, and from detailed case testimonies archived at the Capuchin Friary in San Giovanni Rotondo. These are not popular retellings. These are primary documents from the people who lived it. Now back to the information. In 1940, a woman walked into Padre Pio's confessional after years of silence. Her marriage was in ruins. She had decided to divorce her husband. He had mistreated her. He had made her life unbearable. The family was falling apart. She came to confess her decision, expecting perhaps some sympathy, maybe even approval. Dr. Schuba, her relative, had already told her it was the right choice. An absolute disaster, he called the marriage. She wrote Padre Pio a long letter explaining everything. She poured out her heart. She listed every cruelty, every broken promise, every reason she had to leave. She never mailed the letter. The morning she planned to walk to the post office, there was a knock on her door. She opened it. Her husband stood on the front porch. He had been gone for years, many years of separation, the records say. He looked at her and his voice shook. He said he had been to see Padre Pio. He said he wanted to reconcile. He said he wanted their marriage to work. Then he said something that made her blood stop. He said Padre Pio told him about the letter sitting on her table, the letter no human being knew about, the letter she had not yet sent. Padre Pio had read it without seeing it. The husband stood there trembling. He admitted everything. He said Padre Pio told him to go to his wife and make up with her. He said he did not have the courage. He said he was ashamed. He said he could not face her. And then Padre Pio gave him proof. He told him about the letter his wife had written. He described the contents. He knew what she had said. And he told the husband to go immediately. The woman listened. She felt the weight of 50 invisible hands pushing her back toward the sacrament. She invited her husband inside. They reconciled. They stayed together. The marriage survived. That case appears in the July to September 2011 issue of Pray, Hope, and Don't Worry, the official journal of the Padre Pio Foundation. It was documented by Father Joseph Pius, one of Padre Pio's closest collaborators. It was not a miracle of feelings. It was a miracle of obedience. Padre Pio did not tell them they would be happy. He told them the marriage should not be dissolved. But here is the question that burns under that story. Why did Padre Pio fight so hard for marriages that seemed dead? Why did he refuse absolution to people using contraception? Why did he tell a man named Giuseppe di Sessa in 1942 that he should remarry after his wife Anna Maria died in October 1940? Even though Giuseppe said he never wanted to marry again, why did Padre Pio look at broken, suffering, miserable marriages and say, "No, you cannot leave"? The answer is this. Padre Pio saw what you do not see. He saw the sacrament. Marriage is not a contract in Catholic theology. It is a sacrament. That word means it is a visible sign of invisible grace. It means God is actively present in the union. It means two people are not just promising to love each other, they are becoming an icon of Christ and the Church. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 32. This is a great mystery. When a man and woman are validly married in the Church, something metaphysical happens. A bond forms that human beings cannot break. The couple can stop loving each other. They can separate. They can hurt each other. But the bond remains. It is written into their souls. And according to Padre Pio, when that bond is attacked, the entire spiritual architecture of a family starts to collapse. Father Stefano Manelli documents this in his biography on page 117. Padre Pio believed that matrimony is for children, not for personal fulfillment, not for romantic happiness, for children. He would quote Psalm 126, verse 3, "Children are a gift of the Lord." His hope for every marriage was that it would be beautifully crowned with children in order to populate the earth and paradise. And when a couple rejected that purpose, when they deliberately refused to have children, Padre Pio refused them absolution. Let me repeat that. He refused absolution. This was not a quirk of his personality. This was not him being harsh. This was him seeing the spiritual reality. He saw what happened when a marriage closed itself off to life. He saw the grace drain out. He saw the sacrament begin to die, and he would not give his blessing to that death. One time he said to a person, "May the Lord's vengeance not fall upon you." To someone else he said, "When you married, God made the decision of how many children he ought to give you." These quotes come directly from Manelli's biography, page 118. Padre Pio was not joking. He was not exaggerating. He was warning them about what he could see and they could not. He saw the supernatural consequence of a choice that looked small and private. Contraception, family limitation, closing the door to children. Padre Pio saw it as an act of violence against the sacrament. Gennaro Prezioso records in The Life of Padre Pio, published by the Society of St. Paul's, page 152, that some of the sins that upset Padre Pio the most were sins against motherhood, the limitation of families, and sins against life. He put those in the same category as cursing, blasphemy, lying, calumny, and immodest dressing, not because they felt the same, but because they did the same thing. They attacked the order God built into creation. And when couples came to confession, admitting they were using contraception or planning to limit their family or rejecting children altogether, Padre Pio would not absolve them. He sent them away. And many of them came back angry. Some never came back, but some did. In 1950, a young woman named Paola went to Padre Pio for advice. She was 21 years old. She lived in San Giovanni Rotondo. She suffered from depression and serious lung problems. She was healed through Padre Pio's intercession. After her healing, she felt called to marriage. She told Padre Pio her deepest desire was to start a family. She loved children. She dreamed of having them. Padre Pio looked at her and said, "So let us pray that the good God will allow you to meet a good young man." Then he gave her specific instructions. Go to confession regularly and receive communion every day. She obeyed. A few months later, she crossed paths with a man named Giovanni Siena. Giovanni had first met Padre Pio in 1928 when he was 8 years old. Padre Pio gave him his first Holy Communion. Giovanni had worked in the mines. He had been a teacher. He had been a journalist. By 1950, he was working at the Casa Sollievo della Sofferenza, the hospital Padre Pio founded. He saw Paola often. He became interested. They started talking. After a few months, they got engaged. They prayed together every day. They entrusted their future marriage to God. On August 27, 1950, at 5 o'clock in the morning, Padre Pio celebrated Mass and blessed their marriage. At the end of the Mass, he was moved with emotion. He repeated this wish 3 times, "Be happy, be happy, be happy." Then reality hit. When they had been married for only a few months, Paola and Giovanni learned that they would not be able to have children. Paola suffered from infertility. The doctors confirmed it. No children. Ever. They were devastated. They went to Padre Pio, and instead of comforting them with words, he gave them a weapon. He told them he would pray the chaplet of the Sacred Heart of Jesus every day for them. This was Padre Pio's favorite prayer of petition. Every single day, without exception, he recited this chaplet for all those who asked for his intercession. And he made Giovanni a promise. He said, "You will see. You will have as many children as the choirs of angels. 9 children." Giovanni did not believe it. He could not believe it. The medical evidence said it was impossible, but Padre Pio did not argue. He just kept praying. And on July 24th, 1951, Paola gave birth to a baby girl, their first child. But the baby immediately fell seriously ill. The doctors said she had no chance of survival. The couple, now desperate, asked Padre Pio to pray for their daughter on her deathbed. Padre Pio told them calmly, the child would not die. She would live a long time. And she did. She was cured. Over the next years, Paola and Giovanni had 9 children total. 9, exactly as Padre Pio said. And they went to him for confession regularly. They prayed with him. They asked his advice about their marriage, the education of their children, their daily problems. After Padre Pio's death in 1968, they continued living the advice he gave them. 60 years later, in an interview documented by Alatea in 2021, Paola said this: "After 60 years of marriage, I can say that Padre Pio's recipe, the chaplet of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, works. Giovanni and I love each other as much as on the first day. 60 years, 9 children, daily prayer. That is what Padre Pio saw. He saw that when a marriage is built on sacramental grace, when it stays open to life, when it prays together, it does not just survive, it becomes a fortress. And when a marriage rejects grace, rejects life, rejects prayer, it becomes a battlefield. Now let me show you what happens on that battlefield. In March 1913, Padre Pio wrote a letter to his confessor, Father Agostino. He described a vision he had on a Friday morning. He was still in bed when Jesus appeared to him. Jesus was very sad and upset. He showed Padre Pio a multitude of priests, regular and secular. Some were celebrating Mass, others were putting on sacred vestments, still others were taking them off. Padre Pio asked Jesus why he was suffering so much. Jesus did not reply. He kept looking at those priests. Then he raised his eyes toward Padre Pio. 2 tears ran down his cheeks. He walked away from the crowd of priests with an expression of disgust and scorn. He cried out, "Butchers?" Then he turned to Padre Pio and said, "My son, do not believe that my agony lasted only 3 hours. This letter is archived at the friary. It is public record. It is not metaphor." Padre Pio saw Jesus weeping over priests who treated the sacraments with coldness. And if Jesus wept over priests, what do you think he felt when he saw married couples treating the sacrament of marriage with the same coldness? What did he feel when he saw husbands and wives standing before the altar, making promises they had no intention to keep? What did he feel when he saw couples using the sacrament as a legal arrangement, a social contract, a financial convenience, instead of a participation in his love for the church? Padre Pio saw that too, and he refused to stay silent. When Angela, a young woman, went to San Giovanni Rotondo to ask Padre Pio for advice on marriage proposals, she expected him to tell her which man to choose. She laid out the options. Several men had asked for her hand. She was afraid to make the wrong choice. She wanted Padre Pio to decide for her. He looked at her and said flatly, "I am not a fortune teller." He refused to play that game. But years later, when a man named Giovanni Rispoli came to him and said his mother wanted him to marry Angela, Padre Pio said immediately, "You two are made for each other. I think you should marry her." Giovanni hesitated. He said war was about to break out. He could be called up for military duty at any moment. Padre Pio said, "The war will not touch you." They married in 1940. Giovanni received notification that he was to report for military service. He went to the recruiting office. They told him another man had been substituted in his place. He would not serve. The war did not touch him. Everything Padre Pio said came true. And Angela and Giovanni had children, multiple children, boys first, then girls, exactly as Padre Pio told them. He even told them what to name the last child. "Name the first ones whatever you want. You can name the last one after me." This testimony appears in the spring 2017 issue of Pray, Hope, and Don't Worry. It was given by people who knew Angela and Giovanni personally. These are not legends. These are documented cases. And they all point to the same conclusion. Padre Pio saw marriage as a mission, not a feeling, not a lifestyle choice, a mission. And the mission was simple: cooperate with God's plan to fill heaven. Now back to the second call to action. If you value this level of research, hitting the subscribe button keeps this content alive. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. And remember, this is not entertainment. This is documented history from primary sources archived at San Giovanni Rotondo and published in Father Stefano Manelli's biography in the official Padre Pio Foundation journal. Now back to the information. But what about the marriages that were already falling apart? What did Padre Pio see there? Here is where it gets hard. Padre Pio did not save every marriage. He tried. He fought. But some people would not listen. And when they insisted on divorce, when they insisted on leaving, when they insisted on remarrying outside the church, Padre Pio would tell them the truth. And the truth was brutal. In one documented case, he said, "Divorce is the passport to hell." That quote comes from a sermon archived at the Mother of God Library. It is not a metaphor. It is not hyperbole. It is what Padre Pio believed based on what he saw. He saw souls. He saw where they were going. And he saw that when a validly married person divorced and remarried, they placed themselves outside of grace. They committed adultery. Jesus said it explicitly in Matthew chapter 5, verse 32. "Whosoever shall put away his wife, excepting for the cause of fornication, makes her to commit adultery. And he that shall marry her that is put away commits adultery." Padre Pio did not soften that. He did not explain it away. He held the line. And when people accused him of being too harsh, too rigid, too unforgiving, he did not defend himself. He just pointed them back to the sacrament. The bond is real. You cannot break it. You can only pretend it is broken. And that pretending will cost you everything. But here is what people miss. Padre Pio did not just say no. He gave them a way forward: prayer. One of the most powerful tools Padre Pio used for struggling marriages was the Chaplet of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. This prayer is built on 3 promises Jesus made in the Gospel. Ask, and you will receive. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and it will be opened to you. If you ask anything of the Father in my name, he will give it to you. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. The chaplet repeats those promises 3 times. It forces you to take Jesus at his word. It forces you to trust that he meant what he said. And Padre Pio prayed this chaplet every single day for every person who asked for his intercession. That includes marriages. In case after case after case, when couples came to him with failing marriages, with infidelity, with coldness, with years of separation, Padre Pio told them the same thing. Pray. Go to confession. Receive communion. Pray the chaplet. And wait. Do not give up. Do not assume it is over. Do not make decisions out of despair. Trust the sacrament. Trust the grace. Trust God. And in many cases, it worked. A woman from the Philippines, working as a sports events specialist, was on assignment in Jakarta, Indonesia, when her husband emailed her. He wanted a separation. The pain was unbearable. She went to the Catholic cathedral in Jakarta and spoke to 2 different priests. Both told her to remain with her husband. She prayed for guidance. She opened her Bible and found the words of Jesus on divorce. She called her husband. He would not answer. She texted him. No response. She felt abandoned. So she prayed to Padre Pio for the healing of her marriage. She asked for his intercession. She kept praying. When she finished her job assignment and returned home to the Philippines, she was nervous. She did not know what to expect. It turned out to be one of the most beautiful homecomings she ever had. The love her husband expressed to her was something she had not felt from him for a long time. She believes it was Padre Pio in a dream telling her he was praying for her. That testimony was published in July 2012 on the official Padre Pio Devotions website. It is one of hundreds, thousands maybe, all saying the same thing. When the marriage looks dead, when the spouse has given up, when the lawyers are already drafting papers, pray. Pray to Padre Pio. Ask for his intercession, and do not stop. But prayer alone is not enough. Padre Pio also demanded confession, weekly confession if possible. He said, even if a room is closed, it is necessary to dust it after a week. He wanted people to examine their conscience constantly. He wanted them to see their own sins first before they pointed at their spouse. He wanted them to take responsibility. And in confession, he did not let them hide. He read their souls. He knew what they were not saying. He knew the sins they conveniently forgot. He knew the lies they told themselves to justify their actions. And he called them out. In one case, documented in the historical archives, a monk said Padre Pio told a penitent, if you go to confess to another priest to gain absolution, you will go to hell together with him. That is how seriously he took it. He would not allow people to shop for an easier confessor. He would not allow them to find a priest who would tell them what they wanted to hear. He demanded true contrition. He demanded repentance. And if they were not ready, he sent them away. No absolution. Come back when you mean it. That sounds harsh until you understand what Padre Pio was protecting. He was protecting their souls. He was protecting the sacrament. He was protecting the grace that flows through confession. Because if you receive absolution without true repentance, you commit sacrilege. You receive the sacrament in a state of mortal sin. And according to Padre Pio, that is one of the most dangerous things a soul can do. He told an English lady who kept coming to his confessional for 21 days, instead of complaining of my severity, you should ask yourself how the divine compassion can receive you after so many years of sacrilege. She had been receiving communion in mortal sin for years. She did not think it mattered. Padre Pio saw what it was doing to her soul. On the 21st day, he finally gave her absolution. She was truly sorry, and she changed her life completely. That case appears in Mary O'Regan's book, Padre Pio and You, published in 2025. It shows the pattern. Padre Pio refused absolution not to punish people, but to save them. He wanted them to come back with real contrition. And when they did, he welcomed them. He gave them absolution. He restored them to grace. And he told them how to stay there. For marriages, that meant daily communion, weekly confession, and constant prayer. It meant both spouses had to commit. It meant both had to stop pointing fingers and start examining their own hearts. It meant humility. It meant sacrifice. It meant dying to yourself so the marriage could live. And if one spouse refused, if one spouse walked away, if one spouse chose divorce, Padre Pio told the other spouse to keep praying, keep going to Mass, keep receiving the sacraments. Do not give up on the sacrament even if your spouse gave up on you. Because the sacrament is not just about the two of you. It is about God. It is about the children. It is about the witness you give to the world. It is about eternity. And Padre Pio saw eternity. He saw where souls were going. He saw the souls in purgatory begging for prayers. He saw the souls in hell suffering the consequences of their choices. He saw the souls in heaven rejoicing because they cooperated with grace. And he saw how marriages fit into that cosmic drama. Every marriage is either a pathway to heaven or a pathway to hell. Every decision matters. Every act of forgiveness matters. Every moment of prayer matters. And every rejection of grace has consequences that ripple into eternity. So when a couple came to him and said they wanted a divorce, Padre Pio did not see two people who were unhappy. He saw two souls standing at a crossroads. He saw the eternal weight of their decision, and he fought to pull them back. Sometimes he succeeded, sometimes he failed, but he never stopped trying. In the case of Giuseppe di Sessa, whose wife Anna Maria died in October 1940, Padre Pio told him to remarry. Giuseppe said he never wanted to marry again. He wanted to stay faithful to his wife's memory, but Padre Pio told him, "For the sake of your family, you should consider remarrying." Giuseppe resisted. Padre Pio repeated the advice. As Giuseppe was leaving, Padre Pio said, "I hope that you come back to San Giovanni Rotondo again. As far as the question of a remarriage is concerned, you will see that I am right." 6 years later, Giuseppe met a woman named Maria Grazia. She told him about a dream she once had about Padre Pio. In the dream, Padre Pio told her she should marry. She argued with him. She said she felt called to another mission. Padre Pio said, "Marriage too is a mission." She woke up. Now she was standing in front of Giuseppe. They fell in love. They got engaged. They married. And after the wedding, they went to San Giovanni Rotondo to tell Padre Pio the good news. He smiled. He knew. That case is recorded in the March 2013 issue of Pray, Hope, and Don't Worry. It shows that Padre Pio did not apply the same rule to every situation. He listened to God's will for each person. For some, remarriage after the death of a spouse was part of God's plan. For others, staying single was the path. He discerned. He prayed. He told them what he saw, and he trusted them to obey. But when it came to divorce and remarriage while the first spouse was still alive, Padre Pio did not bend. He could not bend. The sacramental bond was still there. The first marriage was still valid. And no civil law, no human court, no personal suffering could erase what God had joined together. That is the hard part. That is the part people do not want to hear. But Padre Pio said it anyway, and he said it because he loved them. He loved them enough to tell them the truth. He loved them enough to refuse absolution when they were not ready. He loved them enough to make them come back 21 times until they meant it. He loved them enough to fight for their souls, even when they hated him for it. And some did hate him. Some called him harsh. Some called him rigid. Some called him medieval. Some accused him of lacking compassion. Some said he did not understand modern life. Some said the church's teaching on marriage was outdated. Some said divorce was sometimes necessary. Some said remarriage was a mercy. Some said Padre Pio was wrong. And Padre Pio said nothing. He just kept bleeding. He just kept hearing confessions. He just kept celebrating Mass. He just kept praying the chaplet of the Sacred Heart. He just kept doing what Jesus asked him to do. And when he died on September 23rd, 1968, at 1:30 in the morning, after saying his last Mass the day before, after giving his last confession, after blessing his last spiritual child, the wounds on his hands disappeared. The stigmata vanished. His hands were smooth, clean, whole. 50 years of bleeding stopped the moment he stopped breathing. And the world wondered, why did God take the wounds away? What did it mean? Was it proof? Was it a sign? Was it mercy? Maybe it was all three. Maybe God was showing us that Padre Pio's suffering was finished. His mission was complete. He had fought for souls. He had defended the sacraments. He had stood at the door of the confessional and held the line against the lies that destroy families. He had refused to compromise. He had refused to soften the truth. He had refused to give people what they wanted instead of what they needed. And now he was done. The wounds closed because the work was finished, but the work continues. Because marriages are still falling apart. Couples are still choosing divorce over sacrifice. Spouses are still walking away from sacramental grace. Children are still growing up in broken homes, and the lie keeps spreading. The lie that says marriage is just a contract you can cancel. The lie that says you deserve to be happy more than you deserve to be holy. The lie that says love is a feeling instead of a decision. The lie that says grace does not matter. The lie that says the sacrament is just a ceremony. Padre Pio saw through every one of those lies, and he told couples the truth. Marriage is not about you, it is about Christ and the church. It is about the image of God written into the union of man and woman. It is about the children God wants to send into the world. It is about the grace that flows through the sacrament when you cooperate with it. It is about eternity. And when you attack it, when you close it off to life, when you walk away from it, when you treat it like a business arrangement, you are not just hurting your spouse. You are attacking the very structure of reality. You are tearing down what God built. And the consequences do not stop with you. They ripple out, they touch your children, they touch your grandchildren, they touch generations you will never meet. Padre Pio saw that ripple. He saw the fallen away Catholic woman on the night she died, writing her thoughts, lamenting that she divorced her true husband because he was not to her liking and married another. She knew she was going to lose her soul because she refused to do what the priest advised her. Get rid of your illegitimate husband and do the right thing. She refused. And now she was dying, and she was reflecting on her children, her grandchildren, generations down the line who would be lost because of her one bad decision. Generations who would curse her for all eternity because of the wrong decision she made, living her life on her terms, rather than carrying her cross and leading her family to heaven. That testimony is archived at the Mother of God Library. It is a true story. It is what Padre Pio warned against. It is what happens when you choose yourself over the sacrament. And it is still happening today. Every single day, somewhere in the world, a married couple is sitting across from each other at a kitchen table, deciding whether to stay or leave. They are weighing the pain of staying against the relief of leaving. They are imagining life without each other. They are thinking about what their friends will say. They are thinking about the legal process. They are thinking about custody. They are thinking about money. They are thinking about dating again. They are thinking about happiness. And they are not thinking about grace. They are not thinking about the sacrament. They are not thinking about the invisible bond written into their souls. They are not thinking about what Padre Pio saw. They are not thinking about eternity. But eternity is thinking about them. God is watching. The angels are watching. The saints are watching. The souls in purgatory are watching. And Padre Pio, now in heaven, is still watching. And he is still praying. He is still interceding. He is still standing at the door of heaven, saying what he said to his spiritual children on earth. I will stand at the gates of heaven until I see that all of my spiritual children have entered. That is his promise. That is his mission. And if you are in a marriage that is falling apart, if you are standing at that kitchen table wondering whether to stay or go, if you are tired and hurt and angry and done, listen to what Padre Pio would tell. You, pray, go to confession, receive communion, pray the chaplet of the Sacred Heart, ask for Padre Pio's intercession, and do not make any decisions out of despair. Do not assume it is over. Do not give up on the sacrament. Trust the grace. Trust God. And if your spouse will not cooperate, if your spouse walks away, if your spouse chooses divorce, then you stay faithful anyway. You keep praying. You keep going to Mass. You keep receiving the sacraments. You do not remarry. You do not pretend the bond is broken. You carry your cross. You offer your suffering. You trust that God will use it for something greater than you can see. Because that is what Padre Pio saw. He saw that suffering united to Christ's suffering has power. He saw that sacrifice offered in obedience has value. He saw that staying faithful when your spouse leaves is not weakness. It is strength. It is heroism. It is love. And it changes eternity. Paola and Giovanni Siena proved it. 60 years of marriage, 9 children, daily communion, weekly confession, constant prayer. They stayed faithful. They cooperated with grace, and they loved each other as much on the last day as they did on the first. That is what Padre Pio saw when marriage stayed together. And that is what he fought for every single day in that wooden confessional box in San Giovanni Rotondo. 12 to 15 hours a day, 50 years, bleeding hands, reading souls, saving marriages, one confession at a time. In 1968, the same year Padre Pio died, Italy began discussing no-fault divorce laws. By 1970, divorce was legal. By 1978, abortion was legal. The demographic collapse Padre Pio predicted began exactly as he said it would. Today, Italy's fertility rate is 1.4 children per woman. Replacement is 2.1. The population is aging. The schools are closing. The villages are emptying. And the marriage rate keeps falling. Padre Pio saw it coming. He warned them. He said the day people lose their horror of abortion will be the most terrible day for humanity. He said abortion is not only homicide, but also suicide. He said the suicide of the human race will be understood by those who will see the earth populated by the elderly and depopulated of children, burnt as a desert. That was 1967, 1 year before his death. He was talking to Father Pellegrino about a woman he had denied absolution because she confessed an abortion. Father Pellegrino asked him why he was so rigorous with this poor unfortunate. Padre Pio did not apologize. He explained, and the explanation was a prophecy. 57 years later, his words are true. Italy is burning like a desert. Europe is burning, the West is burning, and the fire started in marriages that closed themselves off to life. Padre Pio saw the connection. Contraception leads to abortion. Abortion leads to demographic collapse. Demographic collapse leads to cultural suicide. And it all starts with one decision. The decision to say no to God's plan for marriage. That is what Padre Pio saw when marriage began to fall apart. He saw the thread connecting the personal choice to the civilizational consequence. He saw that when one couple rejects children, it looks like a private decision. But when millions of couples reject children, it becomes the death of nations. And he refused to stay silent. So he bled for 50 years. He heard confessions for 12 to 15 hours a day. He prayed the chaplet of the Sacred Heart every single day for everyone who asked. He fought for marriages. He refused absolution when they were not ready. He gave them the truth when they wanted comfort. He pointed them to the sacrament when they wanted an escape. And he saved as many as he could. The rest is up to us.